My name is Ben McLannahan. I write for the Financial Times here in Hong Kong, and I edit the Lex column, which if you're a reader of the Financial Times, you'll know it's the commentary section on the back of the front. You just flip it over, and there it is. And thank you very much for inviting me today to host this very distinguished panel of speakers. Just briefly, let me introduce them for you. On my left is Lord Mayor Frank Jensen of Copenhagen. And then next in line is Tom Miller. Next in line is Mr. Tom Miller, Deputy Mayor of the City of Portland. Next to him is Mayor Ilmar Reepalu of Malmo. And finally, on the far left, it's Mr. Romel Pascual, Deputy Mayor of Environment in the City of Los Angeles. Welcome all. Well, in the addresses so far, we've heard lots about nations talking and cities acting. And it's for that purpose that we're gathered here, just to share some insights into the hard actions that you guys are taking to combat this initiative. So I'd like to start with Lord Mayor Jensen, if I can, just to spend a few minutes talking about what your city is doing to develop a low-carbon, high-quality living environment.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind invitation to be here in Hong Kong today. I'm very proud and happy, and congratulations to Michael Bloomberg with the presidency for C40. In Copenhagen, we are working with a very ambitious and proactive plan for being CO2 neutral in 2025. It's a very ambitious plan, but we are on the right track. The last 10 years, we have reduced our CO2 emission from the city with 20%. We have to thank the very fine district heating system we have in Copenhagen for that. 97% of all householders in Copenhagen are linked to the district heating system. Also now it's coming up as district cooling from the same organization, our city-owned Copenhagen Energy Company. We have reduced the CO2 emission with 20%. Our district heating system, our power platforms will be CO2 neutral, 100% CO2 neutral in 2025. Of course, we have to act more. In the coming years, we have to retrofit our municipal-owned buildings. We have just adopted a new budget for 2011 in the City Council, and I'm happy to say that we have enormous investments in retrofitting our city-owned buildings in the coming years. We have now 20 million on the budget for next year to retrofit the buildings to be more energy efficient. Copenhagen acts, and we invest a lot of money in renewable energy, in greening our city. I'm happy to say that Copenhagen is one of the world's famous bicycling cities. A third of all Copenhageners use their bike for every day to work and to the education. So we have to act, but we cannot do it alone. We want also to make partnerships with companies, with the universities, and also with city associations like C40. Copenhagen wants to be an international laboratory for green solutions. We want to invite you, companies, other cities, the C40, the Euro cities where we just take over the presidency 2 days ago. The next 2 years, Copenhagen will be the presidency for Eurocities, and we'll use this platform also to invite other cities in Europe to be partners with Copenhagen to make these big-scale solutions in our city. In the coming years, we have to develop a whole new part of Copenhagen, the North Harbor area, where 40,000 people will live and 40,000 people have their daily work. And we want to make this new part of Copenhagen established just like a 100% CO2 neutral part of Copenhagen. So I'm glad to be here today saying that when we were in Copenhagen November last year, participating in the Mayor Summit in Copenhagen, we made this one-liner, Cities Act. I'm happy to say that we're doing so. It's not only a one-liner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's go across to Portland and find out if there's as much action there.
Sure. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to join all of you across the world to address this important global challenge. Portland is a relatively small city of 560,000 residents, but while we are small in stature, we are strong in resolve. We have, for about 40 years, the last 40 years, we have been working to address climate change. In fact, in retrospect, the city of Portland and its residents were working to combat the threats of climate change without even knowing that climate change existed. Portland is perhaps most well known in the United States for recognizing the relationship between transportation and land use. And over the last 40 years, we have been working to sculpt the city, if you will, in a manner that allows for growth to occur in a way that enhances quality of life and economic prosperity. So we don't see, nor have we ever seen, environmental protection, environmental sustainability, and economic growth as threats to each other. In fact, they are one and the same. The world understands that very clearly today, and I'm proud to say that I think Portlanders recognized that reality many years ago. In 1993, we were the first city in the United States to address global warming or climate change. At the time, we referred to our plan, again, the first in the nation, as the carbon dioxide reduction strategy. Not a very catchy topic, but again, the first city in our country to recognize the threat and to work to address it. We updated our plan in 2001, and we continue to do so today. We passed a very ambitious climate action plan in 2007, and some of the key attributes of that plan are a focus on, again, transportation and buildings, the two primary sources of emissions. In Portland, our emission portfolio is about 45% buildings and 40% transportation. So that's a little bit different than Toronto and New York, for example, as we heard yesterday. We have focused on, again, focusing growth in corridors that allow for walkable, livable, bikeable density that, again, creates vitality for people in a manner that creates economic prosperity. Bicycling is at the highest level in the United States at about 7 to 8% of all trips. We don't match our friends in Copenhagen yet at 1/3 of all trips, but we aim to get there. Our 2025 goal for bicycling, for example, is 25% of all trips will be made by bicycle. With regard to trams, or streetcars, as we refer to them in Portland, we have an ambitious plan to reintroduce the streetcar to the tune of 50 miles of streetcar throughout the city. We were the first city in the United States to reintroduce contemporary streetcar. We're unlike Toronto, for example, or New York, which never stopped building rail transit. Portland, unfortunately, stopped in the 1950s. We have reintroduced rail transit, and we have very ambitious goals to reduce our emissions while, again, enhancing economic prosperity through the development of rail. So that is the transportation side of what Portland has been up to and what it aspires to do. On buildings, we had one of the first green building strategies. We are in the process of updating it. Of course, we are taking cues from the very ambitious Plan YC plan that Mayor Bloomberg referenced. We'll be updating our plan shortly, and those, again, with transportation and buildings, that's where our primary focus has been, and we aim to do more in the future.
Thank you very much. And thank you. Before we circle back to Scandinavia, I'd like to stay in America and just drop down a few hundred kilometers to Los Angeles for Deputy Mayor Pascal to talk about your various initiatives.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having Los Angeles as part of this conversation. And, you know, when we talk about LA and we talk about green, talk about sustainability, LA and sustainability historically has not ever been put together. It's kind of like saying a jumbo shrimp. You know, it kind of exists, but it's hard to really look at it. But, you know, in reality, because Los Angeles has had this history of sprawl and smog, it's been able to deal for many, many years, for many decades. How do you manage a city that is sprawling and a city that is very dependent upon the single passenger automobile? And when you look around the world and the growing cities around the world, they're growing not up, they're growing out. And so with Los Angeles, we've had decades of experience, some very hard experiences with our air quality about how do we actually green our city. And, you know, with Los Angeles, the emissions, half the emissions carbon emissions are transportation related. The other part, a third, is energy, and the other parts of it are from other sources. But when the mayor came into office, Mayor Villaraigosa, he looked at the city in terms of what do we have direct control over? What can we do that we have direct control over, that we have the potential for immediate results? And the fortunate aspect of Los Angeles, which is very different than some of the cities, is that we own major economic engines and companies that other cities have privatized. We own the largest municipal utility. We own one of the largest ports in the country and in the world. And we own one of the largest airports in the country. So with all of those are both pollution sources, but there are also opportunities for economic growth. So we're able to marry them. In fact, with a utility that was pretty much dependent upon, at the time, we had 3% renewables. Now we have 20% renewables. So looking again at what do you have direct control over. At the port complex, one of the largest ports in the world, in fact, over 40% of everything that enters into the United States enters into the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. So there's a significant kind of global context here. So we said, what do we do with the port? We have to grow it because of at that time with the economic growth, but we also have to green. Folks used to think that by growing a port, you cannot address the green issues. Before 2005, before the mayor came into office, we weren't able to expand any of the projects until we said we will green it. We were able to marry the green and the growth to now being able to expand by approving about 6 large terminal expansions because we were saying we were green. And because of that opportunity, we were able to take a look at those sources of pollution, those bricks and mortar, those widgets that we always, for those who have a port city with the cranes, with the trucks, we're able to invest the resources that we had direct control over and say, we want to green the trucking industry. We invested in the first ever 100% electric drayage truck that is operating within the port complex. If you take a look at it, it's not just cars, you have to look at all transportation systems. And in a city like Hong Kong, where the ports, in a city like New York, where the ports are a global hub, we have to take a look at what can cities do in that particular context. So when the mayor came in, he looked at every single aspect. And in 2007, we developed the Green LA Plan, which looked at a 35% reduction in our carbon emissions. And today, from municipal operations, we're a little bit over 16% reduction. So again, we looked at what we had direct control over. And now, because the mayor came back from Copenhagen, let me tell you, bicycles, bicycles, bicycles in a city that is automobiles, automobiles, automobiles. And so that's our next challenge, is how do you give some space to bicycles in Los Angeles? And so that's going to be our next big challenge. And I thank you for giving that to us. Thank you.